A few years ago, Nintendo released what is, in my opinion, one of the most disappointing games they've ever made. No, not that one. Not that one either. Man, they've really had some bad releases on the Switch, huh? I'm talking about Mario Strikers Battle League. Mario Strikers is a series that, before Battle League, had laid dormant for roughly 15 years, so getting a new one was exciting. I mean, in the time Strikers was gone, they'd pumped out 3 whole tennis games. I'm so sick of Mario Tennis, dude. But, as you can probably guess, this game was not great. It had Nintendo Switch Sports spin-off title Itis, where it launched with not a lot of content and some underwhelming updates promised. But what makes this game the most disappointing Nintendo game ever released to me is just how little this game seems to acknowledge that there were 2 games that came before it. Super Mario Strikers for the GameCube was a great base, and in my opinion, Mario Strikers Charged for the Wii is a perfect sequel. In this video, I want to talk about these games as a series and follow their natural progression to show you just how much we lost in those 15 years. Wow, graph. Number small? Make number big. Yeah. In 2005, we got Super Mario Strikers, and what's cool about Super Mario Strikers is this game isn't for pussy. Why did I write that? What I meant is that this is surprisingly the first Mario sports game where direct contact is allowed. Before this, we had tennis, golf, and baseball, so that multiplayer violence fix would have to be saved for Mario Kart or Mario Party. But what is so fun about Strikers is just how over the top they went with this contact. I mean, tackling people into electric fences is essentially the brand here. At its core, this game is soccer mixed with football with no rules. Oh, and Mario is there too. Hi, Mario. And I know how stupid that line sounds if you are an American, but like, you know what I'm talking about, so I'm not gonna rewrite it. Fuck you. Regardless, this game came out and was generally well liked, with the biggest issues being cited that it was just a little simple. This game is a really solid foundation. It did a lot of legwork with really establishing its own identity. The art style, god, the art style is so cool. At its core, the gameplay is really intuitive. You have a pass button, a shooting/tackle button, a holy shit where's the ref button, which doubles as a deke? What does that mean? Whatever, an item button, and a chip button that can be combined to do lob passes or lob shots. This game is really easy to pick up because, I mean, for one, it's emulating the most popular sport in the world, like we all know how to play already, but also the controls are not as involved or complicated as something like FIFA. You also have access to these super strikes, which are just fine, I guess. Essentially, in order to perform a super strike, you need to be playing as your captain and be in a position where you can charge a shot long enough for this meter to appear, and then you have to time both button presses as close as possible to the center. If you do it right, you can score 2 goals in 1 shot. If you mess it up a little bit, you'll still stun the goalie, allowing you to make a follow-up. And if you mess it up super bad, the goalie will just kill you. I think the super strikes are kind of just a little bland, especially if this is supposed to be like the super move or even like the final smash of this game. It just feels really underwhelming, and I think this can kind of resonate with the rest of the game as well. Really good first impressions, but the deeper you look into it, it kind of starts to fall a little flat. I'm just gonna list out some numbers for the content in this game. There are 9 unique captain characters and 4 sidekicks. Captains are your main guys with more unique animations, better stats, and are able to perform super strikes. The sidekicks are just generic teammate characters. You're locked to a full team of one of them. There are 7 different fields, but these are mostly cosmetic, as there really aren't any noticeable gameplay differences between them at all. There are also 14 different items. In terms of single player, there's cup battles where you compete in several CPU brackets to win various trophies, and yeah, that's basically it. This game's really arcadey. The main draw is that core gameplay, getting into intense multiplayer battles with your friends and just wanting to hit that rematch button over and over. Okay, you saw the title. I already said it earlier in the video, Mario Strikers Charged is genuinely one of the best sequels ever made. The way that this game just takes everything that Super Mario Strikers did and just expands upon it in natural ways is just, it's just kind of artful? Is that pretentious? I don't know, I'm talking about Super Mario. This shit rules. First, just in terms of content, we now have 12 different captains, each having their own unique captain ability. And we now have 8 different sidekicks, which have been completely revamped in this game. Not only do they each have unique stats now, but they also have unique deeks, their own unique skill shots, and you're actually allowed to build your team with any combination of 3 that you want. There's also 10 new maps that finally include stage hazards and gimmicks. And hey, if that's not your thing, 3 of the new stages have no hazards, and all 7 of the original stadiums from the first game all return. Some of these maps aren't the most fun, but I think a Mario spin-off game without even some options for chaotic stages is just kind of bland. Thunder Island really sticks out to me. You're playing on this high cliff in the middle of an ocean storm, and throughout the match, wind will blow cows, fish, and cars across the field that you have to avoid. There's also not a fence on this map, so you can tackle people off the edge and lower the enemy's team size. I'm also a huge fan of Crystal Canyon, which has this banger first off. And at the beginning of every round, the crystals will zap certain team members from both sides, forcing teams to adapt and play with different compositions. I love having the options to play both serious games with no interruptions and these more chaotic and varied maps that really shake things up. Charged is not just a cool word they put in the title for no reason. In this game, the ball is made of metal, and by passing it around, you can charge it. The ball starts purple and gradually turns white when it is fully charged. The more the ball is charged, the stronger your shots will be, which makes them way more likely to go in. I really like this mechanic as it feels like a natural extension of the sport. I mean, soccer is about team play and passing, and the ball charge mechanic encourages and rewards you for engaging with that. While we're talking about the ball here, I just want to briefly mention that sound design for this thing is so good. Depending on the charge of the ball when you pass it, the sound will build upwards at a higher pitch. There's this steady sense of progression, and now that I'm listening to it again, is this the Fortnite pickaxe sound? What the fuck? Anyway, shooting the ball in this game? Okay, first, let me play a clip from the first game. Did you hear that? Okay, I mean, it is just a soccer ball. I guess it really shouldn't make that much of a noise. I mean, what does charge sound like? This sound is absolutely intoxicating. I could listen to this shit all day. The way that passing sounds gradually build up until the shot, which just explodes all that energy, makes this game feel so powerful. There's just an energy in the sound design alone that is nowhere to be found in the GameCube version. As someone who had played Charged first and went back to Super later, I honestly felt like the game sounds kind of empty. The controls are mainly the same, albeit adjusted for the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. Alright, I'll talk about it. Everyone, this is motion controls. Yes, this game came out in 2007 for the Nintendo Wii. So, yeah, there are gonna be some motion controls, but to be completely honest, I feel like they really add to this game. First, tackling has been moved from the shoot button to shaking your remote, and I kind of really love this. It feels natural, and most importantly, really good to have such an aggressive action matched to shaking your remote. It's not like this is a Mario Party minigame where you have to constantly shake the controller to do well. It's just a situational one-off action that is mapped to a motion instead of a button. I think it works well and feels good for the spin in Mario Galaxy, and I think it works better and feels better here. Next, we have Mega Strikes, the new and improved Super Strike. Now, when you charge up as a captain, you can score up to 6 goals. Wait, I know it sounds bad, but hear me out. Okay, so when you charge up, the longer you charge, the more balls you can shoot, with the lowest being 3 and the highest being 6. Once you confirm how many balls you shoot, you have to time a second button press determining the speed. Gray is slow, green is medium, orange is very fast. Also, quick aside about the sound design again, the absolute adrenaline that hearing this sound blasting through a Wii Remote speaker instills in you is insane. Then, you take to the heavens, get this dope-ass cutscene before it's the goalie's turn. The opponent gets to play as the goalie and use the Wii pointer controls to block the balls before they go in. Medium and slow speeds are pretty easy to block, and the fast speed turns into a really difficult precision reaction check. I think this works so much better than the Super Strike, because essentially, the second someone gets a Super Strike off, you just kind of have to hope they mess it up. As the opponent, you have no counterplay once it's happened. Your counterplay was to stop it from happening. This is so much more interactive, and again, for a motion control gimmick on the Wii in 2007, there is much worse out there. If you have a bad sensor bar setup or something, these can be pretty frustrating, but I think when it works really well, and again is even more situational than tackling. If you're still not super stoked about Mega Strikes, well, good thing this game lets you disable them. Alongside the standard Striker Cup campaign back from the GameCube, we also have a small mission mode in this game. These are cool little mini challenges that can be really hard, but your reward for beating them is unlocking cheats, and cheats essentially allow you to change the game's rule set. You can disable Mega Strikes, you can disable ball charging, you can make it so the ball is always full charge, you can change item rates, you can make the field tilt. Some really cool and robust options here that really let you play with the game the way you want to. While it's not a huge deal nowadays, this was also one of Nintendo's first games with real online play. I never played it when it was available, but I've heard it was actually pretty good, and definitely looked back on more favorably than the horror stories I've heard about Brawl. But this was a huge new feature and a selling point for the game at this time. Okay, can I say something? Promise not to get mad at me. Hold your angry YouTube comments, please. If you like the GameCube version more than Charge, you're just nostalgia blind. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it's true. This game has essentially every single thing the GameCube game had, except those weird robot guys, and expands upon it. Mega Strikes are straight up more balanced than Super Strikes, since you have agency in defending them. Map variety is undoubtedly a good thing. The charge mechanic builds upon and deepens the core gameplay. Sidekicks are so much more interesting and versatile, and if for some reason you don't like any of that, you can turn it all off. Cheats allow you to disable Mega Strikes, turn off the charge mechanic, turn off captain items. This game has so much more going on, and so many more options to tune it the way you like. I find it really hard to see Charge as anything but an objective upgrade to the GameCube version unless you grew up with it. Whatever, I've got bigger fish to fry here. So now, we're moving on to Mario Strikers Battle League. And, fuck, man. I wasn't one of the poor souls who spent money on this game. My friend is though, so when this game came out, I played it with him a bit and got bored pretty quickly. All the footage from this video will be from the free demo because I do not want to financially support this video game. I think what makes this game so disappointing is that it is designed in a way that feels like Charge never existed. Battle League is acting like a sequel to Super Mario Strikers, and it doesn't particularly do that very well, and we already have one of those. Let me just start with the content in this game. So we launched with 10 characters. There are no sidekicks in this game, so if we're only talking captains, this game technically has one more character than the GameCube version, and 2 less than the Wii version. This game launched with 5 maps. None of them have any interesting hazards, or really anything interesting at all, and we have 2 less than we had on GameCube, and 12 less on the Wii, with no hazards. One thing I find really weird is that we're down from 14 items all the way to 6, mainly losing out on some of the shell variants and triple variants. The captain's abilities are also gone because we don't have captains anymore, and single player is just the Striker Cup tournaments again. Mission mode is gone. Well, okay, it's looking a little barren, but it's okay because this is a sports spin-off title on the Nintendo Switch, which means they can finish the game later. They always do that, right? This game received 3 content updates, which added 6 characters to the game. Out of all 6 of these, only one of them was not returning from Charged. Luigi was DLC in this game. This brings the total characters up to 16, which is still less than Charged total 20 characters combining captains and sidekicks. They added 3 new stages, just barely eking out the GameCube version with 1 more stage, still losing to the Wii by 9, and that's it. This game is dead now. And it still kind of blows. Oh, okay. So content is not this game's strong suit, but maybe the gameplay is super good? The gameplay is fine. If this was your first Strikers game, you'd probably have a good time. But like I said earlier, this game feels like more of a sequel to Super than it is to Charged. The charge mechanic is gone, and in its place we have perfect shots and passes, which essentially just makes both stronger if you time a button press right before you receive the ball. These were also in the other games. The Mega Strike has now devolved back to the Super Strike, which is now called the Hyper Strike, which I can kind of understand because Wii motion controls never translate well to the Switch, but like, come on, you couldn't come up with anything new. And like I said earlier, there are no unique stages. The stages are just cosmetic changes that don't affect gameplay at all. I don't even really know how to talk about this because it's such a nothing feature. But you actually pick half of a stage, and then the other player picks the other half, and then they combine at the beginning of the game like whoosh, boom, whoa, the frame rate sucks here. It like doesn't do anything. It looks pretty bad with certain combinations, just doesn't line up, and is probably just a way to make the 5 stages seem more acceptable, because actually now there's this many stages with this many combinations. Wow, thank you Nintendo for all of these stages. Sorry, I was supposed to be talking about gameplay. The game kind of just feels like Super Mario Strikers, but a lot clumsier. There's this new mechanic where you can tackle your teammates to give them a boost. That's kind of neat, I guess. I don't know, like, all of the new features don't really feel that impactful, especially when we lost all the depth that we gained in the previous game. Sure, there's some new things to play around with, but, I don't care when the rest of the game is so vapid. Item drops are now based on item boxes that will randomly drop on the field, which just makes less sense, because now some items will just spawn closer to the other team, sometimes even spawn on top of people. The same is true for the new Hyper Strike, which is also based on a random orb placement on the map. Whichever team grabs the orb will be able to Hyper Strike with any member of their team for the next 20 seconds before it wears off. This sucks because, one, the item drop will randomly favor one team over the other. Again, it can genuinely spawn on top of people, but also in the other 2 games these moves were so situational because you had to get your captain alone long enough to get it off. And when you see someone trying to create space for their captain, you know what it means. There's this constant threat of this guy is the one that I have to make sure to cover, otherwise they can pull off some devastating shit, which made them feel hyped to pull off. Whether you got the right items to keep people off you or made some good tackles or dodges, the Hyper Strike, in contrast, is an inevitability. When you pick up that orb, you should pretty much always get one off, because you can use any of your 4 team members to do it, pass around, tackle one guy into an electric fence, and suddenly you have a 4v3 and one guy has to be open. This is not to mention that when you start a Hyper Strike, the game slows down, making it pretty much guaranteed unless you were tackling preemptively. Also, messing up a Hyper Strike will still send a giant-ass tornado or something across the field to knock out any players in the vicinity, and the goalie will get stunned with a status effect, which makes it pretty easy to get a free goal anyway. It somehow feels less interactive than the Super Strike did, because at least you could very easily play around the one captain that could do it. I realize now that I neglected to mention the goalies in the first 2 games, and that's mainly because they just work. Essentially, the goalies are really good, they're invincible, and they're pretty aggressive. If you charge a shot too close to them, they will fucking kill you. Taking shots with weak characters will almost assuredly never go in unless you are positioned perfectly, and sometimes they just make impossible saves back to back. Yes, there are ways to cheese these goalies, but to the casual player, they are ruthless, and it forces you to really find good shots and set up cool combos. So that being said, the goalies in this game are horrendous. I played through one of the cups for this video as a team of Toads because I thought it was funny, and notably, Toad is not very strong. He can't even tackle Bowser without charging his tackle for some reason. That's a thing in this game, and I was just sinking shots left and right, ignoring the horrible CPUs that aren't really defending me because this cup was locked to an easier difficulty. The goalie just can't react to things. Sure, some shots are aimed away from him, but multiple times I would shoot right over his head, right next to him. He might even touch it, and it still goes in. The goalies being bad actually slows down the whole game so much because now everyone is scoring constantly, which plays a cutscene and resets to neutral every time. There's also only like 3 to 4 cutscenes per character, and none of them are particularly interesting. There's some really memorable ones from Charged, like, hold on, actually, no, we're gonna watch some of these.
Luigi, yeah. Want the ball? Yeah. Thank you so much. Whoa! She's throwing me. I give up. I hate you guys. You stupid.
I mean, these have personality. The character themes, the animations, the voice lines especially are all on point. But in Battle League, these are some very expressive and well-made animations, but they're also generic. The characters rarely do anything, and if they do, it's like a little Fortnite dance with reused voice lines from New Super Mario Bros. I like the Shy Guy one though. Also, can we get a moment of silence for good sound design? Why does the ball sound like it's fizzling out in this game? Like, at least in Super, you could tell they wanted to just make like normal soccer ball sounds. But in this game, when you shoot the ball, it sounds like TV static or something. Like, I'm sorry if it feels like I've been talking about this in particular too much, but seriously, which of these makes you feel like you just pulled off the perfect shot? There's just no impact in this game. The sound design is a huge factor contributing to why this game feels so clunky and clumsy compared to Charge, which felt powerful and chaotic. This game technically looks good. I don't like it. I think it has just completely foregone the Striker's visual identity. This game looks much closer to Mario Golf Super Rush or Mario Tennis Aces than it looks like Charged or Super. The old games had this muddier, edgier palette that really visually set the series apart. Now everything's so bright, cartoonishly exaggerated animations. It feels like they're trying to make a Pixar movie here. The frame rate's really weird. All the cutscenes are 30 frames per second while all the gameplay is trying to stay at 60. Swapping frame rates is just really jarring to me, and especially with how easy it is to score in this game, you swap back and forth quite a bit. The Hyperstrike cutscenes have this really cool style that they've been using in the concept art since the GameCube. This scratchy, sketchy style is so sick. I almost wish they would have hard committed to something more like this for the rest of the game. Other features, we've got an 8-player mode, that's pretty cool. If only the game was fun enough to justify trying to get 8 people to play it at the same time when Smash and Jackbox are right there. This game made online play its big selling point again, except this time it's 2022 on the Nintendo Switch, where you have to pay a yearly subscription to play online. The namesake of this game is its Battle League, which is essentially a club system with ranks, and I'm sure it's fine if you can find people to play against. But, fun fact, this feature wasn't even available for the first 10 days this game was out for some reason. I don't think Nintendo wanted an active player base for this game. The soundtrack is just pretty generic in this one. They went all in on electric guitar for everything, but it just kind of all sounds the same to me. All the stages are electric guitar remixes of classic Mario songs. There's this Luigi's Mansion one, there's a new Super Mario Bros. One, and these are cool and all, but these stages don't really have their own identity. We just have Mario Location with Mario Song. There's no Crystal Canyon with the or like the Classroom with the boom 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 boom. The character themes almost all sound the same to me. The music in this game is just all electric guitar slop. Like, holy shit. Go through this playlist, everything sounds the exact same. I'm going crazy. There's like 8 versions of every stage theme for some reason, and none of them stick out. So, fun fact, I wrote this entire script and recorded the whole voiceover only to now realize in editing that I never mentioned the gear system. Which should probably say a lot about how interesting it actually is. Essentially, in this game, every character has base stats, and you can buy and equip specific gear pieces to enhance certain stats at the expense of others. You can make your Bowser even stronger, or your Toad even faster. I don't really fuck with it. First off, I think all the gear, just design-wise, looks really lame. Secondly, I think that nothing is really added to the game, because once you get all the gear for your characters that you want, you just leave them equipped and never think about it again. Obviously, this stuff isn't in the demo, so I don't have hands-on experience with it. I wish stats weren't capped at 25, because I think it would just make for some more fun options to have an even stronger Bowser tackling a wimpy virgin Toad. But regardless, I think a system like this kind of devalues the characters in themselves. Like, having a max shooting Toad is cool, but that isn't really Toad, that's the gear. There isn't like character specific abilities anymore, so their stats are kind of the only thing that differentiates them. If you have the right gear setup, it almost feels like team composition doesn't even really matter. Overall, the whole system just feels like a really shallow way to incentivize players to grind currency, and once the novelty wears off, is there really even a point anymore? Mario Strikers Battle League is a bad sequel to a game that already has a phenomenal sequel. It feels like they developed this game hoping no one would remember that. After waiting 15 years for a new entry in this series, this is just a slap in the face to anyone who has played a Strikers game before. Is it necessarily surprising, considering the Switch's track record with sports games and spin-offs? Not really, but it doesn't stop it from being so damn disappointing. At least in disappointing games like Paper Mario Sticker Star, you can see that developers were trying new ideas. They might not have worked out very well, but they were new. A game like Battle League not only has substantially less content and depth than its predecessors, but its new features like the gear system or team tackles don't really add anything of substance to the core game. There is no reason to ever play this game if you have access to the originals. Mario Baseball fans, I'm sorry, but be careful what you wish for. Will we ever get another game like Mario Strikers Charged? Probably not. But maybe, one day, Nintendo will hope we forget about this game and continue where they left off in 2007. Hey, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the Strikers series? Am I too harsh on Battle League? Am I overrating Charged too much? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I also want to thank everyone for watching and supporting my Kirby video. It blew up super hard, and I'm super grateful for all the growth I've gotten from that. Like this video, drop a sub, check out some of my other stuff, and I'll see you next time.